Welcome to the Poured Out Podcast, where we explore the depths of what it means to live a poured out life for Jesus.
I'm Chantel, and I'm here with my husband, Jared.
We're a Christian couple who have been married for 16 years, and we're passionate about sharing our faith journey with you.
We believe that as Christians, we are called to pour out our lives in service to God and to others.
Our hope is that through this podcast, we can encourage and inspire you to live a life poured out for Christ.
Each week, we'll explore different topics related to Christian living, including Bible study, prayer, community, and more.
We'll also share personal stories from our own lives and interview other believers who are living out their faith in inspiring ways.
Our goal is to create a space where you can come to be refreshed and encouraged in your walk with Christ.
So whether you're a seasoned Christian or just starting out on your faith journey, we invite you to join us on the Poured Out Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Hey guys, welcome to the Poured Out Podcast. I'm Jared.
And I'm Chantel.
Today we're talking about creativity, and if you didn't notice, that intro was slightly awkward and not our normal intro.
No, they didn't notice because it's always awkward.
True, but it's awkward in a different way. It's
Okay.
a different kind of awkward. It's a whole nother level of awkward.
Unnaturally awkward.
Yeah. So we haven't posted in quite a while.
Yep.
And so, we just haven't had the mental space to be working on this. And so we figured, let's just get AI to do it for us.
Yeah.
And so that's the AI intro for the Poured Out Podcast.
Which was actually pretty good.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not like how we would talk.
No, nor is it all accurate, because I don't think we're going to be doing any interviews or...
Nothing planned, I guess. But
Yeah. But considering the little info we gave it, that was decent.
it's not bad. Yeah. We'll probably stick with trying to do it ourselves going forward.
I don't think the AI is going to take over.
No.
Could we just get some bot to read it then? We don't even have to be here.
Oh, yeah. Fully autonomous podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably not going to do that either.
Probably not.
Well, welcome anyway to the actual Poured Out Podcast, where it's mostly not going to be AI generated, I don't think. Today, we're talking about creativity. All right. Welcome back. Apologies for the extra long break. That was not really planned.
It wasn't planned, but there was a point where we decided we were taking a break after we started taking a break.
Yeah, and we didn't know how long the break was going to be.
Yeah. Oh, maybe we should talk about that before we get into the other things. Why are we back?
Why are we back? What?
I don't know. Do you have notes on this?
No.
No. Because this podcast keeps keeping me up at night.
Oh, yes. We're back because you woke up at 2 a.m. and we're thinking about it.
Yeah. So one morning I told you that I woke up in the night and had these ideas for the podcast, and you said that you had the idea before falling asleep that we should continue.
Yeah,
that same night.
I've been thinking about it too, and it's not something that we've wanted to give up, but at the same time, with other things going on in our lives right now, it's been hard to give it the priority that it's needed to do it well, I think. And so we just didn't feel like, I didn't want to put something out there that I hadn't actually spent time thinking through or preparing for. But at the same time, we didn't want to stop because we just felt like it's something we should continue.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue. We have a bit more of a vision and a plan around making sure we're a little more consistent, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
hopefully then I will not wake up in the middle of the night with like a floodgate of thoughts, because I like to sleep when I can.
Yeah. I mean, and as long as you write it down, at least you remembered,
Well, I
what
laid
the
in bed for
thoughts were.
40 minutes before I got up
Mm.
and started writing stuff
Yeah.
down. So I don't know what I all forgot.
I often find that sometimes I think that I wake up in the night with a really good idea,
Mm-hmm.
but then it turns out it wasn't really a good idea.
Yeah.
It just like my 1 a.m. brain or
Yeah.
2 a.m. brain thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, so hopefully that's not what this is.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Okay.
No, it's good. We both wanted to continue. It just, yeah, like I said, it hasn't been the priority with just other things going on. So,
So what's going on?
what's going on? Well, there's general life stuff. I mean, the last 6 months have been busy with like more kid stuff than we normally
Yeah.
have with activities and things, and that's kind of done now, or at least diminished
It's
for a
done
while.
for now, but I was coaching 2 soccer teams, so that was like added pressure as to having to be there all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas if your kids are in sports, you don't always have to be there for every single practice and every single game, but when you're coaching, it's kind of important.
Yeah, and so there's been that, and I think, I mean, we've had the time
Yep.
to actually record, but I think what's been difficult is just like the mental energy or space to give to actually preparing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know if that will change, but maybe because I think we have a bit of more of a vision on what we want to do with this, it's easier to give it more of that headspace priority, I guess.
Probably, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
other things going on, or do you have other things you want to talk about?
I was going to ask you what was all going on.
Yeah, so for the past, I don't know, I guess couple of years probably, I've been going through an internship process at our church, and I guess as of this posting, was just ordained as a pastor in our church.
Yeah.
So
Currently, it's a couple days from now,
Yeah.
but it should have happened by the time, unless
Yeah.
something happens. Then we might not have to not post this.
yeah,
If this is posted.
if you're hearing this, this happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean that's obviously it's taken some time, but it's also taken some of that mental energy to just like learning a lot of things, studying a lot of things, preparing sermons and things like that I'm very new at. So
Yeah. Well, and you've been preaching for the last year.
yeah,
But it's been-
but just a few times kind of thing. So, and then there's just been, I think with that, there's been a lot of, I feel like spiritual attack and just feeling really worn out at times and things like that. So, I mean, I feel like that's probably not necessarily going to change. It'll probably ebb and flow, but
Yeah. Or if anything, it will increase, probably.
yeah, fun times. But like I said, I think we have a bit more of an idea about like why we want to do this.
Yep. Sat down, hashed it out.
Yeah, which we'll probably talk about
I think
in
that
more
will be a
detail at
future
some point.
thing, yep.
But I think, yeah, it got to the point where it's like there's all these other things going on, and we didn't really have a kind of a vision or a plan on what we were doing with the podcast, and so it kind of got shuffled to the bottom of the priority lists in some cases. So,
Yep.
So yeah, that's what's been going on. What else has been going on? Is there more stuff going on?
I think that's the main stuff. You've
More stuff.
been working on that kind of stuff in between hours when you're not working.
Yeah, and then also I've been working on some other side projects, which I'm not sure if we need to talk about, I guess, or not.
Well, we could talk about it now or in the future. It's up to you.
Yeah. We'll leave that for now. And you always have lots of projects that you're working on with your work as well. So
Yes. But that's just been a continuation. It's not, I haven't added anything new in the last month and a half or whatever it's been.
yeah.
So
Anyway, that's kind of a brief look at what's kind of gone on the last, I guess it's like month and a half.
yeah.
Probably we should have said something,
Yep.
but I think at the time we didn't really know how long we were gonna be taking a break from. But really want to be more consistent.
That is the goal.
That is the goal. Yeah. Obviously, life happens sometimes, and yeah, can't guarantee anything, but we're gonna try. So yeah, that's that. ChatGPT intro.
Yes. Awkward.
Yeah, but like kind of accurate.
I know.
With like
yes.
Like we really didn't give it a ton of information to go on.
No, I think you gave it our podcast title name and that we were a Christian couple.
Yeah.
And it spat out a decent
intro. Not completely inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that we can just not have to think about any topics anymore? We can just type or get it to give us some ideas, and then it can also just write the script for us. Because I mean, it was supernatural script.
Oh,
right?
No one
right,
even...
host 2?
We've been married X amount of years. No one even noticed anything off.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure it was all very natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about creativity today.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of like chatter, I feel like, about creativity and AI, because since this ChatGPT thing came out, AI has been all the rage, or like heavily debated, and a lot of creative
nailed it.
Yeah. I wonder if there's an AI that fixes how you talk.
The future.
A lot of people that are involved more in like the art world like have shared some probably valid concerns about how that's going to affect them. Like even in my job, not a creative, however I said that, necessarily creative job, but doing like web development, it's somewhat creative, I guess. But there's a lot of tools that will just like write code for you. And then, some people are concerned. It's like, oh, it's going to, take my job. And other people are like, we just Googled how to do this and copied and pasted anyway. So now it's just skipping a step. So it's a strange world.
It is. It's very futuristic feeling, even though we're living it right now. Yeah.
I see it as a tool for the most part. And I don't think, like, depending on how it's used, I can see, like, if you're using it to just copy someone's art in some way, like, obviously that's a problem. But I also think that it can be a tool that people that aren't necessarily gifted in a certain type of art but want to create something can actually use. Like I can't draw.
Oh, me neither.
But if I have something like in my imagination of like, oh, I want a picture that is this and this, I can't even think of an example.
So
I want a picture of a dragon riding a cat. I don't know.
Well, now I want to see this picture.
But I couldn't draw that.
No.
Well, I mean, I could, but it would all just be stick figures. And so my dragon stick figure looks the same as my cat stick figure, which is the same as just a
so then it
person
could look
stick
like
figure.
A cat riding a dragon, which wouldn't be as interesting as a dragon riding a cat.
True, exactly.
If you couldn't tell.
But there's still creativity involved in like thinking of the idea, even if you can't execute the actual steps of making it look how you imagine it. So I feel like it kind of opens up for non-artistic people or people that struggle with that some possibilities, which is kind of cool.
I think it is really cool. Like the AI art generator. Sorry, if you guys are watching on YouTube, you will notice there is a cat that is pestering me here, so it's a little more difficult. The art generator.
The Mid-Journey thing?
Yes. We've done a variety of different things with it, but the more information you give it, the better stuff it spits out. Yeah, and you can be very specific, and so there's creativity involved in what you're asking it to even generate for you, right? So, but at the same time, I mean, it is potentially a challenge for people that are good at actually creating the artwork. Yeah. Probably.
So
I'm so very far away from that though.
But like, I think that's happened in society in so many different areas where technology has just enabled people that didn't have a certain skill to now be able to do it because they don't need that skill anymore.
Yeah.
And we kind of just adjust, and new jobs are created because of different ways things happen. And so I don't know, I'm curious to see how it goes. But we're going to do I don't know, not an experiment. I thought it'd be funny to get AI to write some poetry for us.
Okay, let's do it.
On the spot. So do we have any parameters around this, or are we just like anything?
Well, I may have gone ahead because you mentioned this and I was like, I want to try it. So I tried a couple. We don't have to use mine.
Okay, well, let's
do, what are we doing? Are we having parameters?
No, just free form. Let your creativity flow.
Let's pick one word that it has to,
like a poem about,
or the word has to be in there.
Okay.
You have an idea?
Yeah, I have a word. The word is, wait for it, I gotta find it. Where's my word?
It's not
highfalutin.
Oh dear. Well, that's a little bit limiting. Okay, so we're gonna get it to write some kind of poem.
You can say what kind of poem you wanted to write.
I know. I'm going to. I'm trying to think. You got yours working?
I'm done. The speed at which it puts stuff out is pretty incredible. I'm not sure if it's going to be a good
I don't know
poem.
how to spell this word.
I copied and pasted. Hi.
Yeah.
FALUTIN. Even if you spelt it wrong, I would probably figure out what you're trying to say.
Okay. Mine's working.
Okay. I will read mine.
Okay. What did you ask it to?
I asked it to write a limerick that includes the word highfalutin.
I thought you were going to do that because I was like, you only know so many different kinds
of
poems.
Because I only that's the only kind of poem that I know.
Haiku?
Free verse. Haiku. I forgot about haiku. That'll be next.
But haiku is syllables and highfalutin is...
That would be a challenge,
Yeah.
but I wonder if I could do it. Okay, my limerick is, there once was a man who was highfalutin. His language was pompous and pollutin'. But when asked to explain, he couldn't sustain. His ego was quickly refutin'. It's not bad.
No, it's not.
I mean, that's better than I could have done by myself.
Well, and like, how long would it have taken you?
3 days.
Okay, so I asked it to write a poem in iambic pentameter.
I don't know what that means. With
the word highfalutin. This is a really long poem. It has 4 stanzas that each have... Yeah, so... And there's a cat that's...
So now on your keyboard?
Okay. In language grandiose with words so rare, some writers aim to dazzle and astound, and seem to flaunt their knowledge everywhere, with every phrase a highfalutin sound. I'm not going to go and read the entire...
That's pretty good.
Entire thing.
I don't know. I feel like that's...
3 more stanzas. Why do cats have to lie on things? That's just my...
Because it's more annoying.
Question of the day. Okay. Cool.
He could lie by my keyboard, but it's more fun for him to lie slightly on my keyboard and press all of the F keys at the top and do all kinds of weird things.
He spelled was, one, and then a bunch of symbols.
Maybe he's trying to use AI to write a poem.
Maybe.
So haiku.
Okay.
Highfalutin words, masking the true meaning, lost. Simplicity reigns.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a long, many-syllable word to put into a poem that is syllable-based.
Yeah. Anyway, it's impressive to me. Like it's a neat technology. I don't know where things are going with AI, and there's some genuine, legitimate concerns with some of it, but curious to see where it goes anyway.
Well, and I've been trying to see how I can use it. And so far, the things that I ask it are things that I already know, and I'm finding I'm smarter than it in some ways.
Yeah.
Because but it's a good way to check up on yourself at the same time.
Well, and I don't think, like, I don't know if it would be the best to just ask it for information, because
What do you think it's best for?
doing tasks that are boring, or I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, for me, it would be useful in like the coding world,
Okay.
right? To do,
Can't relate.
well, so sometimes you have to do something and it's like a fairly common thing that people have done before, but so you could rewrite it, or you could go like search like, hey, how do you do this? Because there's like a million different ways to do every task.
And it just condenses. It searches everything and gets like the average answer, doesn't it?
I think it kind of gets what it considers the best answer, I guess. And like, it's not always going to give you the right information. So
Yes. Well, you do have to check through a bunch of things that say, oh, I was trying to get it to, oh, yes, because I want to start in the next podcast that we do. Every now and then, I want to talk about outrageous conspiracy theories. But if you start searching those kinds of things, it gives you a warning.
Yes.
That it does not have personal beliefs or opinions, but can provide information on some of the most widely known and controversial conspiracy theories. So,
yeah, I think there was a new version. They changed some things, because you used to be able to say like, you are, this persona, you are a marketing expert. Now do things as if you were that person.
oh,
And I don't think you can now. Whenever you try to give it a persona, it tells you like that it's not. It's just a language-based model and doesn't have opinions and thoughts on things.
oh,
and stuff.
interesting,
So, yeah.
interesting.
Because of course they tried to make it not give dangerous answers, I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
But of course people immediately find ways around that.
Yeah.
So, or just to try to get it to give bad answers.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But I think it's the same as like, if you would search anything online, like you don't just believe the first link that you click,
No.
right? Like, and it's the same kind of thing. Like you have to verify that information and, find reputable sources for things. And so
I generally, when I'm Googling things, I like read 3 or 4 different websites and then pick the average of all of those answers. Even like with recipes, it's like, okay, these 4 all have these ingredients. I'll use these ones. And then these few ingredients are outliers, so I won't use those.
Yeah. And depending on the topic, like sometimes you might not have to do that, but
Yeah.
if you're trying to research things a lot of the times, especially nowadays when, if you're trying to research a product, there's probably some type of affiliate site, fake review site set up that's like, hey, these are the top 10 best blenders.
Right. So we need to get it to tell us about almond cow.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. Yep.
Yeah. We'll just leave that there. No context. Almond cow.
Yeah. Google it.
Yeah. So when we were talking about doing a topic about creativity, I immediately thought of AI stuff just because I've used, so Midjourney is like the image generator one.
Right. Yes. Which is really neat.
It's really cool. And I've used that because I have no artistic ability as far as drawing or anything like that goes. So, but I feel like you are a more creative person than I am. You're doubting that statement?
I'm weighing that statement. I don't know. You think so?
I think so.
I think maybe I use it more. But when I see yours in use, I don't think I'm better at it.
I guess depends how you define creativity, I guess, maybe. What do you think of all, like what would be a creative thing that I do?
Well, I'm even thinking like when I have in the past created web pages and you'll come through and rework them and I'm like, that's way better. That looks way better.
Yeah, but that's like been my job for 20 years.
Well, you're also more artistic than me. You can draw better. Your stickmen look more like stickmen than mine do.
But that I would
See, you're just
very much disagree on more artistic, because I mean, drawing is only one aspect and you've done so much more art stuff than I have. Like you've done different like mixed media stuff and poured paintings and
that's
all kinds of
literally
different things.
pouring paint onto a canvas.
Yeah, well, it's still more than I've done.
I guess if you include like photography and video stuff, then maybe.
See, I win. I'm right.
I had to help you with that answer. Teamwork. Okay, anyway, you think I'm more creative?
Yeah, I do.
Just drawn to more creative things, maybe?
Yeah.
Because I don't think I have more creative skill than you do.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's such a broad thing, I guess, like creativity, right? Because you can be creative in so many different ways. And I think that's kind of one thing we wanted to talk about too, is that idea of like whether you're a creative or not.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I feel like I wouldn't definitely not define myself as a creative, I think everyone is drawn to create in some way.
I've always said I'm not artistic, but I'm creative, because artistic implies that you can draw and paint in those like traditional,
right? And
I can't, but I do like doing creative things.
Mm-hmm.
But
and you find a lot of fulfillment in creating something.
Yes. Yeah.
And I would agree, or I also do.
Yeah.
I can't talk. I'm not creative with words.
Maybe you should get your guitar and you could sing to us. There's another form of creativity right there.
Is that, if you're just playing music from somebody else, is that creativity though?
Okay, now we're going to analyze this, are we?
I don't know what I would define that as. I mean, there is a certain aspect of like, I'm not exactly mimicking someone else's style, but it's not like I write my own music or anything.
If you did levels of creativity, I would say like it is a level, probably not like
not the upper
highest
level.
highest level in quotation marks. Not that one is better than the other, but one involves more no, I can't say the word.
What? Creativity. That word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
maybe. Yeah. No, that's good. I was gonna say it's kind of more artistic because you're like putting your artistic
your spin
on it.
Yeah.
Which is a form of creativity.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't. I've never thought of like my involvement in music as a creative outlet for the most part. Like I've at times like played around with just like making my own music, but never to really any end. And
that's the part that seems creative to you, not the playing and singing songs that other people have written.
Yeah.
I can understand that, but I think you're wrong.
Wouldn't be the first time. So there's a quote that I really enjoyed from Andrew Peterson.
Yes.
This is actually from an article that I think maybe he was interviewed or something.
Yeah.
Not from his book, which I think we might talk about later.
Yeah, I think so.
But so the quote is, well, for starters, I don't like calling anyone a creative, but yes, I believe everyone is creative. It makes a difference since that language implies there's a special class of person who's somehow more creative than everyone else. And that's just not true. Mathematicians are profoundly creative, as are architects and pastors and homemakers. It's just not helpful to draw that line. Yes, there are artists, but the arts only make up one slice of the pie of human creativity, and not the most important slice either. And then later he says, what if a pastor thought of his sermon writing through the lens of creativity? What if whoever's cooking at home for their family considered Tuesday night dinner an expression of his or her God-given, spirit-led creative life? There's something highfalutin about referring to oneself as a creative, and I'd be fine if we stopped doing that altogether. And then later again, part of the point is to remind people of that soul-deep impulse that we all have as image bearers to make the world around us more beautiful. So.
Yeah. And I think he's right, but I think you can't just change a definition that culture thinks of when it comes to creative, like the word creativity or being a creative.
Yeah.
I do think that we are all created to create in some form.
Do you think everybody has some type of like innate desire to create something?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think probably some people might have buried theirs pretty deeply at this point. I think the way our society functions as far as like work goes, I think really can stifle that quite a bit in some cases. Yeah, school.
Like, because any kind of individuality or anything that's against the norm, just there's no space for it in school.
Well, depends what you're talking about against the norm now. Like,
okay.
There's lots of space for people being strange now.
I'm thinking back to when we were in school. Back in the olden days, you had to conform to the classroom in the school. And I think if we could think back to like who we were as kindergartners, grade oneers, like in so many ways that's our true self, once again in quotation marks, because that's before we realized what we were supposed to be.
All the expectations.
Yeah.
Like
that's...
Yeah, I think if you look at any like 2-year-old to 5 or 6-year-old, they're probably pretty creative in how they play. And they're going to be in different ways, like not necessarily going to be good at drawing something, but like, Lego. Yeah. That's been a really interesting toy in our house because both our kids have really liked it and they've used it in completely different ways.
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, Reika is now kind of getting to the age where she's not as interested anymore. But even as she moves away from it, I feel like the way Ephraim has played with it has changed now. Like, because Reika's been always about building buildings and like houses. And like redirect, like decorations for houses and like rearranging houses. And she would get like a set for, birthday or Christmas that would be a house or, an apartment building or something. And she would build it. And then like a week later, she would have taken it apart and build it into her own place. And I feel like, there's a lot of creativity in that. And then with Ephraim, it was like for the first while, he didn't build stuff. He just played with it. But he had like whatever story was going on in his mind was probably pretty creative. And now all of a sudden not all of a sudden, but I feel like especially in the last year or so, he's gotten more into building and I don't know if he's ever built a house or a building.
Anything with wheels are generally like, things that he gravitates towards.
The vehicles that he created as like, I don't even know how you built this with like all the fancy Lego pieces that exist now. Like he's built all kinds of complicated, cool stuff. Yeah. But so I think we all kind of have that innate desire to create something, but I think most people don't have a great opportunity to maybe actually do something with that desire or in a good way.
It's often, I think, something that, because creativity can be so personal, it can be scary to share.
Yeah, that's true.
Or put it out there. A lot of people are like closet creatives or something, I think.
Yeah, that's probably true. I was watching a short video last week or the week before about, I think I was telling you about this one about why so many people are bored at work, and just about how the culture or around work has been so focused on efficiency that people don't get to see like the fruits of their labor kind of thing. And so he was talking about like a cobbler back in the day that might make a couple of pairs of shoes in a week, and they would interact with the customer, they would do all the measurements, they would do all the work required to make this shoe. They created this shoe and now they're done. And they get the satisfaction of finishing that. Yeah, and they get to see it on the customer's foot. Yeah. At the end, right? Like right from when they walk in to when they walk out. Yeah. And so there might have been like, maybe 1 or or maybe up to 3 people that would work with this cobbler, but they'd all be involved in all the different aspects of creating something. And now it's so much about efficiency and about quantity, where it's like you don't build a shoe, you might make 10,000 shoelaces a day, but you'll never build make a shoe.
Yeah.
And just how that has changed, like people feeling fulfilled because you never actually feel like you're actually doing anything. You're just kind of like mindlessly making part of a thing.
And like that cobbler, maybe the shoelace making was like the really boring part, but the rest of the other portions of it are all like filling their creativity bucket. But then if all you're doing all day is making this one thing that doesn't fill your bucket, then
and I think there's something satisfying about seeing something start to finish.
Absolutely.
Right? And like completing something is fulfilling for most people, I think. So yeah, it's interesting how like just the work culture plays into that as well. And then, so when people look for hobbies to maybe fulfill that creative outlet that they have a desire for, but yeah.
What if we could all make money on the form of creativity that we enjoy? Random question. It might not be, I know for some people that would devalue the fun, but I think that's also because we have this idea of what work is supposed to be sometimes, that it's not really supposed to be fun.
Well, and it's like in some ways it's not really, because if you look at the fall, we were cursed to have to work the ground and toil and labor, and it's going to be hard work. And so there's an aspect where it's not really not originally work was supposed to be enjoyable, I think, right? Like because God placed Adam and Eve in the garden, and they were supposed to care for it, and so they were working, but their work was fulfilling and enjoyable. And now it's kind of
but they still had
been cursed.
They had to do the physical work and pull the weeds and everything, but they still got to see the end result and have
they would have enjoyed the fruit of their labor, I guess.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. If they wouldn't have had that one fruit.
There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, I guess it's a good way to talk about just how I think we're all innately, we have this desire to create because God is a creator, right? And because we're created in God's image, then we also have that desire to create in us as well.
Right. We want to be like him, right?
Well, we're created to be images of him, right? And so, which kind of puts perspective on like what our creativity is ultimately for as well. Like it's not ultimately for just like our own fulfillment, but it's, I think, a way that we get to point people to God too, and glorify him through the creativity that he's put in us. So I think that is maybe missing a little bit too, where it's like this, your creative outlet can just be seen as like, that's something for me to just kind of, get me through the week because I, had a hard week at work, and I just, need to be able to do my creative thing now.
Yeah, so while we're talking about this, I have to pull out Adorning the Dark by Andrew Peterson, because this, right in the preface of the book, he's talking about calling, and I feel like he touches so much on the purpose of creativity here and the purpose of us being on earth here. He says, calling, as I understand it, is to use whatever gifts I've been given to tell the truth as beautifully as I can. And obviously he's doing that through creativity, him specifically, because he's one of those people that is annoying and can do all the things like sing, write songs, write books, draw, do all those things. But we're all doing that as well, or we should be striving to tell the truth, which is all about God, as beautifully as we can, which will look differently from person to person, and all together comes together and is this like choir of our different gifts that can sing his praises.
Yeah. And I like how he says, like, as beautifully as we can, because like somehow Christians have made God boring.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes, like, and like that, how wrong is that we consider God in the Bible and that's just all just boring. Like, because if you think about the story, it's not boring at all. And so I think when we were given this creativity to show that God's not boring, his story is incredible, his grace is amazing, and so we should communicate that to people in the creative ways and in ways that as accurately as we can point to him.
Yeah. And in that quote, it's the truth. It's like not your truth, right? The truth, like, capitalized.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good conversation to have in a society where we're so focused on consumption.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about this a lot as a homeschool parent or parent in general, whatever. I like to see my kids doing what to me seems like a good balance of consuming things and creating things.
Yeah.
In whatever form that they're doing those in, and even for myself too.
Yeah.
And there are some days where it's more of a consumption day, but then you'll have another day where it's more of a creative day, and just kind of go for that balance over a span of time.
Yeah, like sometimes that consumption of other people's creativity is inspiring.
Absolutely.
But if that's all you are ever doing, then there's something missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That consumption of other people's creativity should spark some creativity in you at some point, or else you just need to pull back because you've had too much consumption. At the beginning of the month, I did that reading for 24 hours in 48 hours, and
too much consumption.
As a reader, that sounded pretty good. Like, oh, I'm forced to read for 24 hours. But by the end, I couldn't even think properly because my brain was so full of consuming things. Yeah. I was reading books, I was listening to books, and was like, that was too much. I
have a hard time with that with like audiobooks if I listen to it for too long.
Yeah.
Like that one day I listened to like a 6-hour audiobook. I think I just listened to it like in one day. And I think maybe it was on 2 times speed. So
3 hours.
Yeah.
What were you doing? Were you out and about?
I took the kids or Reka out to the sticks for the youth.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so you were.
So I was out. I had time to kill.
Driving and stuff, and
I was driving, and I didn't want to drive home for like half an hour and drive again. Yeah. So I was just like kind of sitting there, and so I listened to this book, which was good, but then by the end I was like, I feel so tired now. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, sometimes when you're just consuming, but you don't notice that when you're doing it always. Yeah. Like it's because it's so much easier to consume than it is to create for the most part. But like that, there definitely needs to be a balance there.
So then as we're talking about creativity versus consumption here, he's got a couple really good quotes in regards to this, in regards to not waiting until, he says here, if you wait until conditions are perfect, this is like to create something, you'll never write a thing. That's what he's talking about here, is writing. But I think that relates for anything. I think sometimes you just need to force it, start it, and it will come. Yeah. And then he talks about songwriting is a lot like going fishing. Sometimes you sit by the pond all day and never catch a thing, but sometimes you snag something beautiful. The point is, you never know unless you go to the pond and wait. And I feel like I do this fairly naturally myself, but we do have a child who needs a bit more of that nudging, is prone to more consumption than creativity. And this is a good reminder to like go make them sit at that pond and wait.
It's okay to be bored sometimes. Yeah. Like boredom is good. Yeah. it helps us to.
Sometimes you need to like clear out the space
Yeah.
so you have space to create.
Yeah,
right?
and it's so easy to constantly have something to distract and consume, that we've kind of lost that like ability to be bored, kind of.
Yeah.
Where it's
for
just
sure.
like, oh, and I definitely find that in myself, where it's, oh, I have 2 minutes before I have to do something, like, well, better find something to do.
Yeah.
Pull out your phone or something, right? And that's something I need to work on myself as well. Yeah. So I think, to recap, I guess, I mean, we're all created to create in some ways, I think.
Yep.
And that creativity that we're supposed to like, or in that creativity, I think it's not just about us, it's about then pointing it back to God as well as the creator. So I think when we're stifling that creativity in ourselves, then we're also kind of missing an opportunity to point back to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree with that.
That's my thoughts on creativity.
Okay. So one thing that we talked about that we want to do as part of our podcast going forward, this was part of our vision that we were talking about together, is to leave you guys with a question, because I want this to kind of not just be something you listen to and then turn off and then forget about. I want the conversations that we have to be ones that people can continue with, the people in their lives.
Yeah.
So I want to try to leave you guys with a question each week. This can be, I think it will generally be a question you can ask other people, and then
I mean, you can ask yourself too.
you can
start, but
yeah, for sure. But this is a way to start conversations with other people.
Yeah.
And so the question for this week is, what have you been working on this week? And I think you can ask yourself, see if you've been doing more consumption or more creativity, if there needs to be a shift there. But also, like, I think this is a good way to ask people what they've been doing in the week without saying, so what did you do this week?
Yeah. Or how was work this week?
A few years ago, I had a very intentional change in my language when I asked people about their week. And then over time, somehow I lost that. And it's something that I want to get back at, is asking better questions. Not like, how are you doing? Because everybody's good, or they're busy, but good.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same. You're not going to get anywhere. You can say that as you're walking by someone in the grocery store when you don't really want to stop, because that's the answer you're going to get.
You don't actually have to wait to hear the answer, because you know what it'll be anyway.
It's on the next aisle, already picking out all my chips. So I think these will be better questions that you can get to know people better, get to know them deeper, and also hopefully challenge each other in your lives, in your walk with Christ.
Yeah.
So what have you been working on this week?
Cool. Yeah, it's a good question, because I think it brings out more than just
What have you been working on this week?
podcast.
Oh.
And a sermon.
Oh yeah. Okay, that was good.
What have you been working on this week?
I created a workshop, a homeschool literature workshop, and some other downloadable products and some videos.
Yeah, I mean, you're always creating something, so
yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us again, the Poured Out podcast.
Sticking around while we were
radio
silent.
Apologize again for the inconsistency, but like I said, we do have a bit more of a vision and a plan, I think, and so we'll try to be better at that. But yeah, thanks for sticking with us, and have a good week.
Bye.